Good afternoon.
Hello.
How are you? All right, well, let's start. It may just be the three of us hanging out, and that is fine. So I'm going to move the camera. I was told I had to show my face today. But then it'll mostly be either on my pressing mat or on the sewing machine. And Gail, just for your benefit, I'll go through some of my basic thoughts about sewing a quilt like this. The first one is that I have a spool of thread and a needle that I use only for this project. Okay. Mostly that's because I'm doing other things in between, and when I come to the store to sew, I don't know what's on the machine, and I think that consistency is helpful in a quilt this large, and when you're making just a couple of blocks every month. You're not doing it all in one sitting or even all in one, grouping. You may do many other projects in between. Oh, yeah. So I have Orfill in like a dove gray, and I have a Microtex 80, which is just a sharp Schmetz needle. It's what I prefer, and so I just carry that around with me in my Nebula bag.
Okay, good idea.
The other thing that I have on hand, always is a little pair of scissors. I mean, literally, this stuff just stays in this bag. And my teeny tiny, what size is this? 18 millimeter rotary cutter.
Okay.
Because some of these shapes aren't huge, so you can use your regular rotary cutter, but I had this one, and it's been awesome to cut out these shapes. And you're usually only going through, one or two layers at a time, so it's awesome.
And then small. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love the small one. I always have a seam ripper because no project is complete unless you've ripped a couple seams. Doesn't matter how proficient you are. And then I like these glass head straight pins, and I like the glass head because if you iron over them, they're not going to melt.
Yeah.
So that, and they have a very fine, pin shaft to them. They're a little bit flexible. And these just make me happy. So that's kind of my tool, just my sewing tools that I've been using for this project. Mm-hmm. I really like steaming my iron, so much so that they have a special iron just for me because I do put water in my iron. I know a lot of people don't like to do that, but I do. And I'm pressing on a wool pressing mat. So the two of those together get things really nice and flat. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I have my directions for the month and my rulers. Okay. So that's what I carry in my Nebula bag, and that's what we'll be using today. So I like to lay my blocks out, just like Judith was saying. I don't have labels on these. Oftentimes I will label my pieces if I'm working on a traditional quilt where you're just cutting out tons of background pieces. There might be 15 different pieces. I will label them and put a little binder clip on the top to hold them all together so that when the pattern says, using piece A, I can just grab them. I don't have to remeasure. I don't have to think about it. So I have these in order. So these are my A. I have 18 triangles. B, 2 hexagons and 12 triangles. C are just diamonds. And I don't think we've done a lot of diamonds so far in this one, if at all. So I've got my diamonds, 6 of those. And then I also have 6 of my half hexagons in this stripe, the 10th stripe. So those are all my pieces all cut out, ready to go. And the first thing we're going to do, and I'm using my little pattern booklet, and I try to make the block before we meet that's not sort of color-coded in the directions, because you'll see that while she shows the layout for both colorways, the actual step-by-step directions are usually in just one colorway. And so I try to do that colorway with you all just because it's easier to follow. So the first thing we're going to use are our block A's. And I sometimes have different fabric than you all. So this is snippy, but I think it's in a different colorway than you might have. This is my second version, Gail. That's why I'm using some different fabric. So I have A, and I'm going to be putting them on diamond C. And Jaybird's rulers have, when you cut your triangles, you get this blunt end on one of them. You can blunt all of them, but usually you at least have one that has a blunt end, and she will actually show you in the diagram, and you can see that the blunt end is down right here,
Yeah.
where that end should go, so that when you match up your blocks, that blunt end matches up right there, and my points match up here. And I'm going to be sewing that seam right along there.
Okay. May I
So it's kind of,
interrupt you and ask you a quick question?
of course you can.
Okay, so for these rulers and such,
Yes, ma'am.
I guess in order, am I supposed to purchase her rulers then to complete this project?
Yeah, so I will say two things about that.
Okay.
One is that this uses two rulers, the Super Sidekick and the Hex and More ruler.
Okay.
No, nobody likes it when I say this, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
Okay.
I already own the Super Sidekick, and I have a 60-degree triangle ruler, and those are the two rulers that I've used for this quilt.
Okay.
If you don't want to buy the rulers, hold on, let me grab. Which is totally your prerogative. So I'm not a big pusher on extra things that you may or might not use again. So just know that. But in this block of the month, just her basic instructions, she has templates.
Oh, okay.
And there are templates for everything that you would need in
Okay.
here that you can trace.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, where is my? So the one thing that I could not cut out using my two rulers is the hexagon. So I traced that. I have a paper pattern piece for that.
Okay.
She only uses one hexagon. It's a 4.5-inch hexagon. So I just went ahead and traced that. I have it out of pattern paper, and that's what I've used.
Okay. Very good.
So you absolutely can do this without rulers,
Okay.
without her specific rulers. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So in the shop, I have a 590 today. I never know what I'm going to get. So at home, I have a 790, which I love. It's a big machine. And I have an old Bernina 1230, which is like a workhorse. They don't make it anymore, but that's what I sew on. But I do have my 790. And when I come here to sew, because they don't have a 1230, I either sew on the 790 today. I have a 590, which is awesome. I have a single stitch plate in here because that's what I'm used to, is not having the wide 9mm area. And so I don't want my tips to get sucked in, which happens on pretty much any machine if you have a really wide teeth area. And I have a 37, which is the 1/4-inch foot D, which on a Bernina has the dual feed. Can I ask what kind of machine you're sewing on, Gail?
I've got Bernina. I've got a 770. I've got a 550, a 350. I got a few others.
There you go. There you go. Well, whatever you feel most comfortable sewing on. All these pieces are small. So depending on what your go-to machine is, and I won't tell anybody, you don't have to tell me which one is your favorite. If I had all three of those machines, I would probably sew these on my 350.
Would you? Okay.
Yeah. But that's up to you. I mean, whatever you're most comfortable sewing on, that's just my, that would be my go-to, just because it's a smaller machine and these pieces are not large at all.
Okay. All right.
And then I'd use my 1/4-inch foot, and it already has the 5mm stitch plate on there, which would be perfect.
Okay.
And I set my stitch length to 2.5. Ursula was just telling me she uses 2.0. Whatever makes you happiest. I probably wouldn't go below a 2.0, because when you have to unstitch something, not if, but when you have to unstitch it, it's going to make you cry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would make me cry. How about that? You may not cry, but I would cry. So I'm going to make this first unit, which is an AC unit. Of course, with quilting, you don't need a back stitch. Everything's been threaded. Ursula's already been amazing and tested the machine for me with my thread on there. So I'm just going to go ahead and make these units and put them aside. There are 3 units that I'm going to make, and then we can start putting things together. And if you think of any questions, either one of you, just holler. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All righty.
And I I just chain piece everything. I'm not going to cut my thread till I'm done and ready to press.
Okay.
Okay, and the next unit is this D, which is our half hexagon, and we're going to use some more of our A triangles on there. And on this one, they have Jaybird has the little blunted notched end going towards the bottom. So once I match up that blunt end, that way my dog ear at the top right here is going to naturally fall into place. There's no guesstimating
Right.
where it should go. All right, ladies, so I have my pieces from steps 1 and steps 2. And as always, we're pressing all of our seams open. So I'm going to give it just a little press before just to set those seams, and then we'll go ahead and press all my seams open. And I have 6 of each of these.
Have you ever tried using one of the, what are they called, tailors? Are they clappers? Or...
Yes, I love the clapper. I will tell you that by using the wool mat and some steam, it does often do the same job. If you don't have a wool mat, then I think the clapper is awesome. And I do use it in garment sewing quite a bit. But I have found that with these pieces, if I use steam on this wool mat, it actually gets things really nice and flat.
Okay, good to know.
So, yes.
I've just ordered one of the clappers.
They're awesome.
Yeah. And wondered what your opinion was of using it here. All right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you absolutely can, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty. So now I'm going to take these 2 and we are going to sew them into this kind of funky shape right here. And so I can match up my top edges together right at the point, and then you're going to have a little dog ear at the bottom there. I don't know if you can see that too well.
Yeah.
Perfect. And we're going to sew, and so your needle should come right at that intersection of your top fabric and that little dog ear.
Okay.
If it doesn't, do not lose sleep over it. That's the goal. All right, so the next step, we're going to sew 2 triangles, one on either side. Oh, hold on, you don't need my whole stack. So we're going to sew them like that. Okay. Be little ears on each of these 6 blocks. And you can actually sew them. You don't have to press in between because they don't overlap at all.
Okay.
This way.
So Gail, all of my blocks, I have them in an individual like Ziploc with the instructions, which I've now thrown water all over, but I keep the instructions and then all my pieces, all my shapes already cut in a Ziploc bag so that I can see the number on the front. So then when I'm ready to sew it, I just have to pull that out.
Right.
And it does take time. I'm not going to say that is the quick way to do anything, but just like Judith was saying, when it's time to sew them, I have the joy of just sewing and not the frustration of making sure my space is clear and cutting all my pieces.
Right.
Because I'm not really like participating in this. I mean, I am, but you know what I mean. I didn't get a bag, but I did create this bag.
Oh, that's pretty.
And that's where all my pieces live.
Look at
that way I never have to worry.
That is so cute. See, I would have just, took out a magic marker or something like that. I love what you did. You even used the Tula background fabric.
I did, yeah. The gray of the what does she call this one? Let me not say it wrong online because somebody will tell me. Of the fairy dust. They do. And then these are all Tula solids. Yeah.
That's really sweet. Now you should show that every time that you do one of these classes, because you should sell a little pattern for that.
Well, it was so fun, and it means that I have all my blocks that are done, and they just live in here with all my rulers, and I don't have to worry about, do I have everything that I need?
Right. I love that. That's cute.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so our last unit that we're going to make uses our hexagon, and then we are going to place 3 triangles.
Right.
Around, and there'll be one more down here. And we're just doing 2 of these. So you'll need 2 of your hexagons, and then the last 6 of your A triangles.
Okay.
And again, because the triangles aren't overlapping anywhere, you can actually sew all 3 on and then come and press, so that you don't have to get up from your machine more often than you need to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like to get up and stretch my legs, but I also like to get my units done. I have to borrow All right, so we are ready, or I'm ready to sew. So, sometimes laying it out, you'll see if you made a mistake. Is everything going in the right direction? Is the center the right, fabric or color? And sometimes we sew our whole block together and then realize, that one's going the wrong way. Yeah. And again, you have to decide, is it worth unstitching it and stitching it back together, or are you okay with that it's not going to look just like everybody else's? Yeah. And I feel strongly that whatever's going to make you happy and you be able to sleep well that night is what you should do. Okay. And I am not a big pinner, but I do like to pin as we start to put our units together, just to make sure that everything lines up. Okay. And that while I'm at the machine, it doesn't get tugged out of place. So I've just pinned these right at their intersections, where those seams on both blocks are going to meet up. I've pinned those. Right. And if there's any kind of bubble, which there is actually on the second one, then I just know that I need to ease it in between those 2 pins. So this one has a little bit of a bubble, if you can see that.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So when I get to my machine, I'm just going to ease, I'm going to talk sweetly to it and get it to lay flat, which I have no hesitation in doing, because a lot of these shapes have bias edges. It's just going to happen, unless you starch the dickens out of your fabric before you cut it and then starch it some more. Right. You're going to get some bias edges that just, decide they want to stretch out a little bit.
Thank you for saying that. That's good to be aware of as I start this project.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Getting close, ladies.
Right.
I usually try to keep us to an hour. We're going to go over a little bit today. Sorry.
That's okay. I've been yapping too much.
No, you're fine. This block, some of them go together faster than others, and this one, it's got a lot of little...
Complicated.
Yes, it is much more complicated.
Now, do you have these once a month?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll pay more attention to my email.
It's always the Sunday. So Jaybird does her videos the first Tuesday of the month, and then I sew the next Sunday. Okay. So I think she just had hers this past Tuesday, and so here we are. Okay. And this is one of those quilts where you don't want to cut off your dog ears.
Okay.
Because you're going to use them, like right here, I have my 2 dog ears. Right. And when I line them up, I know that I've got everything lined up.
Okay, gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is one of those where you can just leave those dog ears.
Okay.
right where they are because they're going to be, you're going to use them as guides.
Just as in apparel sewing. Yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly.
All right.
Yep, they're like your notches.
Yes.
For sure.
Well,
So I was a home ec nerd in junior high school. I took home ec so many times that they were like, don't you want to try shop class? I was like, no, I do not. So I made my very first quilt when I was a freshman. So I was 14 and it was a McCall's catalog. I still have the quilt. I would never show it to you because it is so sad. I mean, it's tied with red heart yarn. It's an experience, but those back when the only templates you had were, tracing it onto cardboard and then cutting around it with scissors.
Yeah.
And I just loved the whole process. I loved everything about it.
Yeah.
And when I started to get really frustrated with garment sewing,
Mm-hmm.
because things didn't fit the way I wanted them to, or I thought they should, I started quilting,
Yeah.
more kind of heavily. So yeah, so I guess Thursday it'll be my birthday, and so I will have been quilting for 30 years.
Wow. Good for
Which seems
you.
kind of crazy, but so we're on this final seam here. I know it's always so hard to show this. So I have a pin going in perpendicular, and I've matched up. Let me pull it out. I've matched it up with right where the 1/4 inch mark is there, as well as the 1/4 inch mark on the back.
Okay.
And then I sort of wiggle it around and make sure that that pin is really nice and straight and perpendicular
Okay.
in there.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to take 2 more pins, and on either side, I'm going to put those in to hold my fabric down. So that's what it should look like. I've got this one that's, right in there perpendicular, and these
Right.
2 are down. And then I can pull that center one out, and we're good.
Okay.
The other thing that Jaybird suggests, which I think is really helpful, is instead of sewing from end to end,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to sew from the middle down and then flip it and overlap a few stitches and sew from the middle down.
Okay. And is that just to help keep the seams aligned? Is that
Yep. Yep.
happening?
Exactly. And if you're starting right in that center, you're really reinforcing that area is going to stay,
Right.
secure.
I
Yep.
see what you're saying. All right. I'm making notes on these pictures.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So that would be like on step 8 right there. Yep. Okay.
Yep. Yep. Step 8 and 9 right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And she talks about this in her first few videos. I did notice that as the, months have progressed, there's less tutorial about the actual technique of sewing these blocks and more of just, let's look at these pieces and lay them out, which is fine because we're on, month 6. And so, some of those things people say, okay, we know. She does. And you actually you can go to her blog and they should be on there, but she does have a YouTube channel. Yep.
Okay.
All right. So mine's not perfect like Judith's, but it's perfect enough for me. How about that? Everything points to the center.
Yay. Let's see that. Oh, look at that.
So
Very
we've got
nice.
both.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I just want to know how you got that done. And this is time. I'm still putting the pieces together.
Well, ladies, I so appreciate you hanging out with me today. I'm sorry I kept you later than usual, but I appreciate you hanging on.
Thank you.
I'll be back here next month. Same bat time, same bat station.
It was very nice to meet both of you. Thank you so much.
You
for
as well.
All right. We'll see you next
All right.
week, ladies. Bye-bye.
Have a great month, everybody.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank-